This is episode 166 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 166 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Kyle Ford on the show, and Kyle's been on the show before. A very popular episode, a really awesome episode that I quite enjoyed, and he certainly didn't disappoint this time. It's been over 2 years since he's been on the show, and Kyle was absolutely crushing it 2 years ago, and he's crushing it even more now. He's into hotel buying. He's scaled up his Airbnb operations. He's doing development of land. The guy just does more than it seems like there is time for in a day, but he somehow finds a way to make it work. So a big part of our discussion today was on scaling your business, how you can grow a team, and also how you can get into these different types of investments in development and utilizing funds and things of that nature. So very cool episode, very eye-opening episode, and a very good episode for those who want to take their game to the next level, because Kyle has done that multiple times and it doesn't seem like any level will ever be the top for him. So I'm sure you'll get a lot out of this. So just before we jump in, I want to remind you, if you're new to real estate investing or new to the podcast, I highly recommend going right back to episode 1 and working your way through. There's so many gold nuggets all the way through and so many concepts taught right from the beginning in those early episodes. And if you need a little help analyzing deals, you can access my cash flow spreadsheet on my website at andrew-hines.com. Just click the cash flow tab and you can enter your credentials there and have the sheet sent to you. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into episode 166 with Kyle Ford. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have on the podcast for the second time Kyle Ford, sort of the man, the myth, the legend. One of the most accomplished and aggressive investors I know of, and really looking forward to this chat. So Kyle, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Andrew. Great catching up again.
So what's the story right now? Are you working from home or?
Yeah, I actually flew in last night. I was down in Aruba. So back home, working from home.
Oh, able to get away and get some sun, huh?
That's right. This isn't just a natural glow. That's the sun. So.
Cool, man. Well, last time, wow, it's been a while, like over 100 episodes ago. So I guess we're like over 2 years since you came on. And do you want to just kind of recap where you were at back then? I think it was episode 56. And I remember it because I tell people to go listen to this episode because you guys shared some real gold. But do you remember kind of what you covered then? Can you just kind of maybe do a little summary of where you were at that point? I think you had like maybe a handful of Airbnbs, like 6 or something, and you were just doing a 10-unit building at that time.
Yeah. So we were doing. We just got kind of scaling on the short-term rental side. Since then, we've got quite a few more short-term rentals. We're also getting into the hotel motel business. So really moving the short-term rental from the ma and pa to the true commercial accommodation side. Definitely did the 10-plex. I shared a lot of information on that 10-plex over many podcasts and different groups that I did. It's funny because I gave it a range in terms of the value that I said that would come in at, which was between 3 and 3.8. I hit the nail right on the head. It was appraised at 3.5. However, I never actually went through with the refi because I got an offer for $4 million, so I sold it.
You sold it.
Yeah. So
now it would be worth $600,000 a unit.
Yeah. Who knows now, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing a couple other big building BRRRRs as well right now. More short-term rentals, hotel, motel. And then we're also into the land development. So new construction, raw land, land assembly, single family severances, infills, the full gamut. So
in other words, I have no idea what we're even going to talk about today. There's too much. First off, like we're going to dig in, a little bit on the land assembly, do a little recap on that 10-unit. I know you obviously sold it, but how do you find, because you're also a mortgage broker doing that as a day job while you're doing more as an investor than most could do as a day job, and that's your side gig. Like, how do you find time? And you've got a kid. And how old is he now?
Yeah, he's 21 months. And congratulations to you, by the way, Andrew. Welcome to a new level of tired you didn't know existed.
Yeah, I've been working through that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of the, in last year, or in 2022 now, last year, we really focused on systems, processes, and key hires. So, absolutely do not do this on our own. So we've been really taking the time last year to really nail things down and make sure that we were set up to scale and grow. Key hires, strategic partnerships. Really, really at a high level. And I know this is the cheesy line, but working on the business, not in the business. And yeah, making sure that we have the right people in place to help execute, the right service providers that we're working with, and the right strategic partnerships, relationships, and employees in our business. So.
Yeah, that's a brilliant conversation, and great segue for those who have been like scratching their head wondering what the hell's wrong with me, how I still hadn't hired an assistant. I finally did. And so that's like 2.5 years overdue. But yeah, I finally did that myself. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about your key hires and who they are and what they do for your business?
Yeah. So we've for years we've had. I'll give one of the best ones we did is we've always had an accounting professional handle our books, and a bookkeeper there. But we hired an accounting bookkeeping assistant specifically to get that information to the accountant and bookkeeper. We were the bottleneck. We were the one that had to get that information. So that was an administrative role, but super important just to take the stress off yourself and the business. I have 2 assistants. So I have a mortgage underwriting assistant as well as an executive assistant. So those are some key spots, as well as additional property maintenance, property managers, internal, in-house. Operations management. And I use the term management, but really these people are cogs in the business, working in the business. And we still outsource. We still have additional staff or additional companies that we contract. But really having people in-house that are working for us, that are getting the information upstream, downstream, and to everybody.
So these are T4 employees is what you're saying.
We have a combination of T4 and contract. Yes.
Yeah. So contractor helps. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say operations manager, is that sort of a blend of the administrative and property management side? Like they're kind of handling the execution of your properties or at a higher level?
Yeah. And implementing systems and processes. So that's really on the operations side where that's happening. Making sure that when we're hiring T4 employees, when we're hiring independent contractors, they're coming into a system that makes sense. As investors, we're also guilty, everything's in our head, right? Yeah. So really making sure that we have documented systems and processes, things that people can come into, pick up and read. We mentioned we both are new dads. I'm always concerned about what happens if something happens to me. So much of the business was in my head. So I just want to make sure that, my wife, my family, somebody that can come in if something were to ever happen to me, to make sure that everything can function and operate without me. So.
Right. Okay. So, and that's something I think is pretty important as well. And yeah, for me, everything's in my head, and I had processes for the longest time. I think people heard me talk on this show. Like, I think, I thought, well, if I could just eliminate myself from the processes or create really good frameworks for things, like I can kind of delegate outside of my organization. And that works to a degree. But I mean, I kind of got to the point where like even being in my inbox, like I couldn't stand it, like anything to do with managing my schedule, basic bookkeeping. So my kind of angle, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is I'm bringing in an EA and teaching her everything about what I do, like getting her inside my head. And then I'm going to have her help build the processes. And then as she gets too busy, we're going to hire people to compartmentalize pieces of her job and hire those out as positions. But I feel like I just took the first step, but I'd love to get your take on that.
So I love that. And then that's the way we have to do it. But what I realized quickly at the scale and the pace that I wanted to grow, I kept hiring one person, and I needed to hire 2 or 3.
But don't you need the time to onboard? You know what I mean? And I agree with you. I need to, for my construction company, I need to hire an operations manager, like someone who understands construction, but also understands the administrative side.
Yeah. You know what? It's just like everything. you're not going to get it right the first time. I've hired some people that it didn't work out for whatever reason. Yes, we need time to onboard, but you can't afford to wait. You can't afford to wait. And even if it adds a little bit of stress in the onboarding process and a little bit, pushing outside of your comfort zone, and short term, it is more work. Even months into some of these hires, it's paying dividends like crazy. So
like I'm like a couple weeks in. Actually, no, we're on the second week with the admin, and obviously there's a certain slowness, but there's been certain values that are just already, to me, like, that's worth it. Like just right there, just that you did that for me. Thank you. That's good. That's a good 100%. Start. Yeah. But you're like, there's certain things that are going to take a year, like easily, before their understanding is really there. And I'm looking at multimedia people now, and like, I'm going to have to teach them real estate, because in order to do what I do, they gotta know real estate. But I look at that as a long-term investment, like investing in the future of my business and my sanity. Right. So you got to do that at some point. So that was really all new for you, right? Like since 2 years ago, like you didn't really have that team at that time.
No. So I don't think I had any mortgage brokers working underneath me. I have 5 now working underneath me. We have 5 T4 employees. We're about to double that with the Motel launch that we're doing. We are multiple contract employees. We certainly did not have the infrastructure 2 years ago that we've built over the last 2 years. And, we talk about leverage all the time in real estate. You got to start leveraging labor. You got to start leveraging other people's time. And that's the next level of leverage. So,
and tell me, how do you find these people, and how do you weed out the ones that you don't think would be a good fit? Like, I guess it starts with a criteria of what you're looking for. But I mean, I've posted so many job postings where you just get everyone throwing something at the wall, seeing if it will stick.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it, but so many people hire out of convenience, and that generally means friends and family. And I have absolutely hired friends and family. Some have worked really well, some not so well. You got to invest the time and energy. We've done Kijiji ads. Indeed has been good as well. Social media posts, referrals. Same way, the same way we find real estate deals. That you got to have multiple approaches. In our experience, we found a lot of the unqualified people weeded themselves out. The people that we hired kept calling back, kept following up after the interview 2 days later. And hey, you said you get back to me in 48 hours. We're at 47 and a half hours, just making sure you haven't forgot. Nice. They really, the cream kind of rose to the top. And the people who weren't serious weeded themselves out. The amount of people who don't show up to interviews and don't show up to even a phone interview baffles me. But nonetheless, it exists. And
So one of the things I did, because I mean, with the Indeed experience in the past, I've had like 150 to 300 applicants. And I'm like, how do I even start to weed these people out? So one of the things I did in the latest round was I actually posted, I just sent anyone who actually applied and followed the instructions, I sent them back a request that they record a 10 to 15 second video and send it to me of them saying, of themselves saying why they wanted the job. And I just figured if they're not willing to do that, then I don't even want to interview them, and I can cut that out. And I actually found that helped weed a lot of people out, because a lot just weren't willing to do that. And I'm like, great, you weeded yourself out. Now I don't need to.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we do with tenants, right? We were always trying to find ways. How do we whittle this down to the tenants that are actually respectful and serious? And you create a system that they have less hoop they have to jump through, that the lazy ones won't jump through, and they weed themselves out. Makes it a lot more manageable, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's super interesting. I'm like glad to hear that you've done that. We got to chat more often.
I know. I know.
Make me feel like I haven't done anything, and then I'll do more.
I know you've been busy.
Yeah. With that you say it's a lack of sleep with the new kid. I feel like it's like it never made it more apparent that I needed help in my business, because it was like, I don't even physically have the time with, like, I'll get the baby thrown on my lap for 2 hours in the middle of the day. And okay, well, I guess I'm not working right now. Yeah. So that part's been interesting, because we came down here to Florida and there was only two of us, and he was going through this like leap, and it was like he was crying if he was awake, and Jordan was not having fun with it, so I had to help. But anyway, so we're managing, but I'm sure you went through stuff like that too, right?
Yeah. And you hear everybody say it with kids, but it truly does. It reprioritizes things. It adds clarity. It defines your why. You really understand and appreciate things more. And that is, in the 2 years that since we've last talked, my 21-month-old has been one of the biggest things that have impacted the reason why we've done everything that we've done and hired these people and moved our business to a different level. I say to Chelsea all the time, we didn't have a choice. It was up or off.
Yeah.
We either had to turn this off and stop where we were because we just couldn't manage it, or we had to go up. And up was easier than off. So we went up and we hired the people, built the infrastructure, and couldn't have it any other way. So
yeah, that's super smart. So 3 months pretty much after our interview, baby came along. And tell me about like the why, like how did that change? And what happened first? Like, you talk about the up or off moment. Where did that happen? And what was the why?
Well, so doing the level of real estate and running the mortgage business can be very stressful. There's often for a lot of time haven't prioritized my health, and having the little guy and imagine where he's going to be in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and adding 10, 20, and 30, 40 years to my age. I need to take care of myself more. I need to manage my stress. I need to make sure that I'm healthy and able to be there and be, it's different maybe for a son than a daughter, but I want to be at his wedding. I want to be there for his grandkids, and maybe not be able to play the sports with my kid or my grandkids, but being able to go to the events and being healthy and able. So that's not just from like a physical, but like a mental health position, really taking care of myself to make sure I'm there to take care of him. And we're blessed to have worked really hard to build a business that we can travel in. And that's been amazing to be able to, yesterday we flew home, and that was his 10th flight. He's not even two, and he's been on a plane 10 times. So the lifestyle and the options that we're going to give him, and we're putting his, I don't know if we could say this, but we're putting his ass to work. There's no doubt about it. But he's going to have a lifestyle that most kids can't have. So but also in the same breath, really, I want to be able to on the weekends turn my phone, and I've gotten to this point where I can turn my phone off on the weekends and just be with them. I work my butt off throughout the week. I'm 32, but I'm not ready to retire. I want to keep working. I want to be in the game and in the hustle for a lot of years, but I do want to be able to turn my phone off for a week. I do want to be able to, on the weekends and the evenings, I don't take meetings and calls anymore. For the previous years in my business, I would take calls at 7 at night. I just not available, not going to do it anymore, because that's his bedtime, and I want to be there to help him, go in the bath and go to bed. So just stuff like that, really making sure being present and a part of his life, and making sure I'm healthy and in a good spot to do that for a lot of years.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely similar motivation for me. I finally, ever since little guy came along, I'm like, okay, well, I was obviously playing small before. So now it's time to like just absolutely 10X everything, not based on like Grant Cardone or anything, but I mean, like, just, I don't want to be busy. I don't want to feel the stress I feel. And the only way I'm going to do that is if I fire myself and make a whole bunch more money. So I just decided, okay, it's time to do that. If I'm doing, 5 builds here in Florida, why not do 20? Like, there's really no reason not to. And like, the numbers make sense. So to me, it's just like, okay, let's scale. Let's just take everything that's working and let's just scale it. And it sounds like you've done pretty much exactly that.
Yeah.
And moved into new things.
Yes. Like I said, it was up or off, and up was easier. So.
Okay, so some of the new things, obviously land development's a big one. So and the motel. So I want to talk about those two things, and I don't know, that might take us to like an hour at that point. So let's start with the motel, and then we'll get into land development.
Yeah. So so we bought a motel, and the process has been a nightmare. We didn't get permits for 10 months, which was a massive delay. And then from that, that put us out of line with many of our contractors, engineers. So we are, what are we? 16 months since purchase, and we are going to be launching in another month. So, which is almost a full year delay over what we were expecting on this one. So now this is just a great example of making money on the buy. We bought this property so far below market value, motivated seller, creative financing techniques to get it. And so we're way behind in terms of the launch, but it's coming. And when we bought it, it wasn't really on as much on trend as it's become, but these grungy roadside motels being renovated are on trend. It's the cool thing to do right now.
Yeah.
We
as long
haven't
as
told
it's
a lot
nice, right? Like if it's like kind of like well done and the pictures are good, like you could attract people for sure.
Exactly. So it's launching in about a month in Grand Bend. It's called the Kiwi Motel. Just a fun name. Fully renovated, going to be beautiful. Really excited. We're expecting to do some great revenue. Yes, we own the real estate, but there's a cash flow business model where we're really getting into the business around real estate. So creating the business, owning the underlying real estate, generating a multiple on the return of the business, as well as owning the physical real estate. We envision potentially being, and not saying we're going to do this, but we could potentially actually sell the business to somebody and rent back the real estate to them, which we like the idea of as well.
So you could go more hands off if you felt the need to.
Exactly. So we're looking to keep it internal and build a business with the GM, ops manager, front desk staff, cleaning staff, etc. But if that becomes too cumbersome, we can sell off the business and just rent back the real estate. So that's our model that we're going with.
Okay. Very cool. So what's describe the motel to me? Like how many? So units?
It's 15 unit motel. There's a pool in the back. Our plan is to make a really cool pool area that attracts people for the day. Really attracting the 25 to 35-year-old professionals looking for something something else to do. I mean, I say it all the time here in Ontario. People just go to Niagara Falls all the time on weekends because there's nothing else to do. Like they're just always going to Niagara Falls. So people are looking for that new fun thing to do, creating that vibe, that culture that people want to go and hang out at the motel. 15 unit motel with a pool. We'd love to make a pool bar area there in the future. Obviously more permitting, business licensing involved, but that's kind of year 2 vision around that.
Have you seen the June Motel out of Sauble Beach?
Yeah. So that's been great for us already.
A little inspiration.
And people, there was that you guys are a little bit nuts. Now it's this makes a lot more sense, right? And the great thing about the June is they're booking up like crazy. And people are looking for that experience, so there's definitely market share available.
It's a bit of a novelty, but I mean, Grand Bend is such a nice beach. I mean, and maybe even a little touch warmer than Sauble Beach. So I think there's just so much potential there.
Absolutely.
The pool thing is critical. Yeah, get that poolside bar and like the possibilities are endless. But of course, and I know getting into hospitality is a lot of work. So obviously, hospitality is a lot of work. We're doing that right now with the campsite and realizing just how much work that is. But it's just hard to not want to do it when you see how much money can be made. When you see like what the potential is. That one property you just did, like that's a potential game changer. Now, if you don't mind, can you walk me through sort of the purchase numbers and what you were looking at? And I don't know how much detail you want to give or don't want to give. It's your choice.
No. So we purchased the property for $700,000.
Okay.
We gutted the building and it was sitting there dilapidated, and we got an offer for 3 times that already. So the value of the property has just gone exponentially up. In our top end income, I shouldn't say our top end, our reasonably high end income production is $1 million a year on the property, just a hair under that. And that's without any additional revenue sources like a pool bar, restaurant, etc. As we go to upgrade it over the years. So just on an income model, very, very lucrative.
And you figure, would you be most what about 40% expenses on that?
A little more than that. More like 65%.
65% expenses?
Yeah. Okay. That's with full staffing. Staffing and debt, as well.
Okay, no, yeah, I meant on operations. So your operations cost you about maybe typically I think in hospitality with 40 to 45% or something like that.
I would say that's fair.
Then you take your debt off of that. So after your debt, so which we can get to, but you're probably private mortgage on that right now.
Right now, yes.
Yeah, and then you go back and get a commercial business loan or real estate and business loan.
Yeah.
Okay. So purchase for 700. What do you figure the total rental will be?
About 700.
Another 700. Okay. And so you're in for 1.4. You figure the value when you're down is what, like 5 million or something?
So I would say just on the real estate value, we're going to be close. We should be around 3 million just on the real estate value. When we get into the operations value, including the business, I don't think 5 million's out of the question at all. But just on real estate value, I would say 3. So
on real estate, so hypothetically, what do you think commercially you could get for that? Like what kind of percentage wise?
65%.
65?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if you got 65% on that, you'd be in for nothing. you'd be getting $550,000 back.
That's pretty much the only way I do it now.
Oh, you just want to be in for nothing on everything, huh?
Yeah.
So $1 million, and that's annually though, right? $1 million is annually.
Yeah.
Okay, divided by 12. So about $83,000 a month. You figure your expenses are going to be about 40%. I'm just going to sub these in. So, or 45%. So we'll say basically 0.55 times your total income. So you'll have, income of about $45,000 a month before your mortgage. And then your mortgage is going to be, is it interest only right now? Or you're going to go back and you figure you're going to get, okay. So if you go back at the end, based on the $3 million valuation, you get 65%, which is 1.95 million. You're going to get a 25-year amortization, correct?
Yeah.
Probably like a 4% interest rate. But
call it 5 in hospitality right now.
5. Okay.
New business.
All right. Let's see here. So what did I mess up? Okay. Oops. Okay. All right. So you would be having, this is just ridiculous. Okay. So you would be having about $34,000 a month in positive cash flow on average based on that. That's my projections are a little bit lower there, but that's lower. So you're saying your expenses be a bit higher. So let's just say expense would be a bit higher. Here, I'll just adjust this number. So if we go instead of 55% for the operating, we'll do 45. So you're 55% expenses. So 450 operating income. If you did that, then you'd have like $26,000 of monthly income, monthly cash flow. Yeah. That's insane. See, that's like that one building alone would like change so many people's lives like forever. And that's just one deal you did. Man, that's incredible. So just to recap, because I know we're a little bit all over the place. We took $1 million of rent, that's your operating income at the beginning. I'm using my cash flow sheet. We set the expenses to basically 55%. So 45% left over before mortgage. Mortgage works out at 65% to be 1.95 million, 25-year AM, 5% interest. That's an $11,300 payment. That leaves $26,000 left. So not a bad ballpark to be in, even if you're a little bit off. You know, maybe you don't hit 1 million, maybe you hit 800, which I don't think that's going to happen. But even if you were, you've got so much buffer there to be flexible here in a, you know, a high, medium, and low scenario. So very cool. So just another day in the biz for Kyle here. All right, let's talk. Well, actually, you know, is selling that on the table for you? If somebody makes you the right offer, you'd sell it?
You know what, Andrew, at my point in my business, everything's for sale.
That's the right answer, honestly. Everything is for sale. Just the right price, right?
Yeah, it's just about the right price. We are excited about this one. We'd like to. I see upside in the value of, you know, I mentioned the value of the real estate being 3 million, but potentially exponentially increasing that with the value of the business, getting a higher multiple based on that. So I would say at this point, we're likely looking to hold on to this one for at least a couple of years and max this out. But I'm not emotionally attached to too much anymore. So the right offer comes along on pretty much anything. It's about the numbers for me. So I would let pretty much anything go for the right price.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense, because you can always go buy something else if you sell it for the right price, right?
That's right.
Give our audience a little bit of an idea, like how many different corporations are your bookkeepers dealing with all the stuff you've got going on? Are we talking like, so 8 so far? So would you buy something like this in its own corporation? I'm assuming you would. Yeah.
Because and that has to do with, you know, I'm trying to be more cognizant of exit strategies. There was actually the opportunity, like I didn't necessarily have to with this one, but I wanted to separate the business entity. Yeah. So it has a separate clean books and potentially has a resale value on its own. And not that there's not ways to do that other ways, but I just wanted it to be clean and clear. So the cost of incorporating a company and doing the books on an annual basis is those. When you're beginning, it seems like a lot, but when you're doing $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a month, it's not a lot of money to have it done right, separated, and going back to those systems and processes and having staff do it. You and I can maybe keep track of 8 corporations, but having an employee do that for them is a lot. So giving them the right opportunity to have it clean and separated, I think, is important.
Well, I think, so you're thinking from a buyer's perspective, if you can show them a corporation's financial statements, then that's the cost of running that business. That's the incorporated company. That's the filings. That's everything. That really does show them the picture. Now, some will argue that, you know, you don't want to look at somebody's financials because they might have overinflated expenses to try and get their income down. I don't buy that. As a buyer, I actually do want to see their financials, because that's real. Like that's the no BS stuff. So if you can get that and show them a great number, I mean, obviously, like you've said, like the real estate sort of speaks for itself, but you show the business value on top of that. And things change. Walk me through that. Will a lender lend you money on the business element of it? Because lenders want to secure fixed assets. They want to secure real collateral. Now, the concept of the business and the employees, how and in what scenario are they securing that for you?
So you can get a mortgage or you can get an operating line. So if you can get an operating line against a business revenue stream that they may want secured to a piece of real estate, maybe they'll do it personally guaranteed. In this case, we're going to have a mortgage secured to the property with the revenue from the business as the tenant. So if I'm going to be honest with you, Andrew, I haven't gone through the refi of this yet, and I don't have a ton of experience, so I can't speak too educatedly on it. But essentially what we're going to be able to do is say, if the business is paying X revenue in rent to the property, it can support this amount of debt on the property. Now, is it viable that the business, which is also mine and that's fully disclosed to the lender, can produce enough revenue to make it feasible to do that? That's generally where businesses are looking at lenders are looking at 2 to 3 years financial history. In this specific case, we don't have that. However, the lender that we're working with on this is looking at our business acumen as a whole, looking at our performance projections and other viable, successful businesses that we're operating, as well as comparable businesses in the area, that I'm fairly confident that we're going to be able to get an approval on this without the 2 to 3 years of financials.
So we're hoping for the same thing on the campground too. Like, and it's a very similar situation. Like, we're going to push the income way beyond what a traditional campground would get. And we're hoping, similar treatment. But if it has to be sort of a mid-tier step, we're not quite an A lender when we're done, but we're a better situation than we're in with the fully private stuff. Then, we take steps and just keep moving towards the full cash out, and then obviously sink money back in. But this is very particularly interesting for me, although you have more physical assets to secure on a hotel than I do on a campground.
Well, and do you know what? I love what you said there, Andrew, and I think it's so important for people who are doing their first deal or first big deal. Is I hear so many people say, "Well, I can take down this big deal and I can borrow the private money, but how do I know that I can get an A lender when I'm done?" You don't, but there's a good chance that you're going to be able to take a significant step up the lending ladder. Mm-hmm. Where if you're at 10 or 12 now, but when it's done and fixed up, there's a really good chance you're going to be able to get to 6.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't get to 4.
Yeah.
But get to 6 for a year or two and you'll do okay. And then you get to the 4. And so many people want to go from 0 to 60 or from private to A, but don't forget about C and B on the way up. And sometimes you do have to take that short step to improve it, but don't let not having the A secured in the end stop you from taking the first step. So
yeah, and it just comes to a point, like a guy like yourself, like you just know there's some solution here. I'm smart enough to figure something out. It's almost like a faith in yourself thing. Like, okay, we'll just proceed, and I know I'll figure this out. And that's awesome, man. I love that story and what you're doing there. Now, as far as the individual Airbnbs, you guys had a handful. You've obviously done more now. You have somebody managing those, like, kind of from an asset manager standpoint as well. Obviously you have cleaning people that go in and hire, that's all hired out, but then are you hired out above that as well?
Yeah. So Chelsea basically runs that business now. I'm not involved. I deal with the debt on the properties and the financial ownership structure still as kind of as the mortgage broker, but also as the owner. But Chelsea runs all the operations. So we have a guest experience manager who runs the front end, our accounting bookkeeper who helps with her on the back end. We have an on-site property manager and 2 maintenance people that full-time work with us. So actually 3 maintenance people that work full-time. So
as T-Ford employees or contractors?
The maintenance is maintenance. All 3 are contractors, but the way our structure allows it is our business is actually multiple businesses. Okay, so
multiple billing, billing multiple companies.
They're essentially just contracting through us, but they have multiple billable entities. So,
gotcha. Okay, and as far as your Airbnbs go, do you operate it similar to the hotel where you have a company that owns the asset and then a company that manages them?
Yes, as a whole, yes. There's some intricacies with our joint venture structures that are involved in that, but as a whole, yes, we have an operating company that leases off either the holdco or the personal owner of the property.
So you've joint ventured some of the Airbnbs?
Yeah.
Okay, and so whoever is invested with you is basically your secured the A financing and is a silent partner. I'm guessing.
Completely. So we're the tenant of those properties. They get a fixed monthly income, and we run the Airbnb operations from there. So similar to like an Airbnb arbitrage model, except we are JV'd on the equity on the other side of it. And we've recently we're doing some flip to JV on that, where we've started where we've owned the property. We've had it for a while. We're at a higher interest rate, or we can't get lower end financing, so we've sold it to a JV partner just to pull some of our cash out.
Okay, so you guys will basically take. So John Smith comes along, wants to partner with you. You guys buy a house. He puts it in his name. Does he front the down payment as well?
Yeah. So we've done it multiple ways here, but the most recent one we did is we had a property. It was we bought it, renovated it, we severed a lot off, and the property was appraised for $900,000. It was actually appraised for $950,000. We sold it to our partner for $900,000. They put 20% down, bought it off us, and then JV'd us back from there. So we got all of our yeah.
And do you agree on a number that's just basically market rent to rent it from them, or do you do like a little bit more? How does that work?
Our number is we take so we basically take mortgage and property taxes plus $500. Okay, is how we calculate our rent, and then we pay for everything else. So we pay the insurance, we pay everything else beyond that. So the only thing that the owner has to pay for in the JV agreement is the CapEx. So if there's any CapEx on the property, that's paid for in our JV agreement, not our rental agreement. So we pay for the plumber, like as tenants, we pay for the plumber. If there's a small electrical fix, HVAC fix.
So you're just talking if it needs a new roof or if it needs a new furnace, that's part of the JV.
That's part of the JV, not the tenant.
So that $500 that the tenants or the owner's making, are you entitled to half of that as part of the JV agreement?
So that's pure cash. That's done as return of capital to them until they're paid back in full. And then once they're paid back in full, then we can split.
Then you're split. Okay. So you are 50-50. That's return of capital. You don't get anything. Interesting. So who thought of that structure? You just had a really good lawyer, or did you come up with that and just tell them what to do?
That was pretty much me. I should know. You know what? I shouldn't say that. That's a standard JV structure. We have so many people coming to us wanting in on these things. I don't solicit these. I'm not trying to sell these cottages to anybody.
I got you.
These are close people in my life that are coming to me really wanting into these cottage businesses or wanting into the cottage rental business. And, I just try to structure something that's win-win, that makes sense for them, makes sense for us. Going back to, we're trying to manage our stress. These cottages can cash flow on private money, but I would rather take a JV, lower our borrowing costs, take the stress off everybody. We get our cash out, so we're de-risking a little bit on our end. And, a good friend or family member, somebody who really wanted in, they get some equity in the deal, and they get a nice turnkey, quiet, passive investment. So,
I've had so many people reach out to me, and I'm open to JVs in the future. It's just like I never really knew how I would make it make sense without complicating my life. And that was what I sort of wanted to avoid, is like creating a complicated situation where there would be constant follow-up and all that. So what you've just iterated is something that's actually really simple. Like basically the proposition is you're going to get $500 a month until you're fully paid back. And then at that point, you're going to get whatever. So $250 at that point, because you're going to split it. Yeah. And then at that point, the property's probably worth way more. And
mortgage is way less.
Yeah. So there's a huge equity gain. So it's very simple. There's not much to account for enough. So from an accounting standpoint, it's probably pretty easy for them at the end of the year. They haven't really made any income. Is that right? Or
they have a long-term tenant, right? Yeah. They just report their 12 months.
So they just have to report it as rent, but then they have their expenses. So they're going to pay a little bit of tax, but nothing huge. Okay. And then, so your agreement, you had a lawyer finalize it, and this is something you just rinse and repeat. And when people approach you, that's kind of the deal.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not trying to my future is in the hotel, the bigger space, general partnerships, limited partnerships. That's more of the growth. Here's what I find. Even if I tell you 100 times over that an apartment building is a better investment than a cottage.
Yeah.
People
still
want a cottage.
Yeah,
they want the cottage.
Still do.
So the cottage is sexy. So here's the other thing that is actually really funny here, because I have to. When I'm very serious, if somebody approaches me and they really want into this cottage thing and we're going to do it, the one thing that they have to understand is that this is no different than a duplex in Brantford or a triplex in Kitchener. Mm-hmm. You have a tenant in the property.
Yeah,
we are your tenants. This is not your cottage. This is not available for vacation for you.
Yeah,
you can, if you want to book it, you can book a cottage through us. And if the one you own is available, you get it at market price minus 10% friends and family.
Yeah,
and it's funny because people are a little taken. They think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
You don't just get to use it because you're an owner. There is
you have a tenant. I'm your tenant. I'm paying you rent. So this is not available. And listen, if they message me on a Friday night and it's available for the weekend and we can't find anybody, sure, I'm a reason. They're my friend. They're likely a friend of mine. So go ahead, have fun. Pay the cleaner. The cleaning fee is $150. Pay the cleaning fee. It's yours for the weekend. But it's important that you have that conversation with people, specifically around the cottages, because as much as it's about the numbers, it's emotional too for them because it's a cottage. So
you know what's really cool with this is, I guess you have a joint venture agreement with them, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of escape the HST issue with using the property for commercial use, right? Because you've rented it out from them on a monthly basis.
Yes. So,
or do you? That's not accounting advice for anybody.
Yes.
That's not accounting advice.
So I want to be careful there because this is it's still a little bit disputed. The income is absolutely HST applicable to us,
right.
like the Airbnb revenue.
Yeah, of course. That's your
the
business,
argument could still be that the use of the property was for short-term rental, even though the owner used it differently. We haven't sold them, so there's no ruling on that. But the fundamental idea of our structure is that we are a long-term tenant, and that the owner of the property has rented it on a long-term basis, and the tenant is using it as that. So,
right. So,
not accounting advice.
Everyone still check with your accountant, and also realize like the CRA has retroactively made changes. So what you think is safe today might not be anyway. So keep all of that in mind. That's part of the risk of the investing world here.
We're prepared either way. You know, this is the environment that we're in today.
Yeah.
We've built a structure that we believe is appropriate and proper. We've received accounting advice on our structure. However, in the future, if there's a change, there's a change. It is what it is. So.
For sure. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I like the idea of doing this in Florida is that there is an HST down here, so you don't have to worry about it. That's one of the really cool parts of that.
Yeah, I'm coming to Florida, Andrew.
Dude, come on down because so for a new build, there is no carry-on. Like although the GC I hire, they have some warranties that they have to do for like a year, but no carry-on and no sales tax. So just like good to go. Like just a very different environment. But there are other things that aren't as good down here. But I mean, those are too big. My understanding, again, not advice. Everyone speak to your own accountant. I mean, that's just my take. Yeah. But okay, so we got maybe just a few minutes to touch on what you're doing with the land development. So where's that and what is that?
Yeah, so we have 2 sites right now. We have some small sites as well. But in terms of the major stuff, we have 2 sites. So we have one in Hamilton. So downtown Hamilton, just on the east, just as it goes east, so just past King and Wellington. So right in the first area where things are gentrifying. We have a 6 parcel site. We are in site plan submission right now for a 8-story, 116 unit condo building. So we have gone back and forth on that. We're in second submission. One of our buildings got deemed heritage, which was a fun surprise. So kind of a cool thing in all of that. We've negotiated with the city, and in the area, they you're allowed to do 6 stories. However, they're making an exception to the angular plane restriction, so we can keep the heritage building that they want, and then increase the building by 2 stories to get our unit count.
Okay. So
kind of a cool thing about the whole thing is obviously. We're disappointed about the heritage designation. However, what we're doing is we're making the heritage building with a entryway thing to it. It's actually going to be the amenity space for the condos.
Yeah.
So we're kind of making lemon out of lemonade. It wasn't ideal, but in the grand scheme of things, our project's still viable. And for anybody who likes the character of having a heritage building as a part of the condo, the amenity space, we made it work. So
very cool.
Pretty exciting, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I've seen all kinds of things with heritage buildings, like the one in Toronto. I'm trying to think where it's right near downtown. They Westinghouse building. They ripped down the entire facade or the entire interior of the building, and they propped up just the front facade, and they built a condo building out of it. And they've done that in Hamilton too. I know they did that with a church. So yeah, you can see some cool stuff done, but they preserve the character and then they build around it. So that's super interesting. So with something like that, did you structure the ownership and financing?
Yeah. So this one was, I did it 2 different ways. This was the first one we did. And the way this one happened ended up, it was kind of a client of mine came to me and they bought the site, the 2 units on the corner that they were going to turn into, it was a commercial kind of apartment thing that they were going to try to turn into 19 units.
Yeah.
So they came to me, I helped them buy it. And then there was another site 2 doors down that he started negotiating on and got a really great VTB and asked me to partner on it. And we were going to try to build a 45 unit building on that site.
Okay.
So that's what we ended up doing. And he was going to do his building and we were going to partner on the other one. Then it came to fruition that the person in the middle, the two sites in the middle, we actually knew, and there was an opportunity to assemble them and create a bigger parcel. That's when we brought in a third partner. So this one is pretty simple. This is just a corp with 3 shareholders, myself, another, and 2 other gentlemen. The one partner is our boots on the ground partner. He's the one who had the first site. He's doing all the GC work. And then the third partner is an equity partner, cash partner who put a significant investment in. I'm seeing a lot of people moving into the development space right now. And I think that's great. We need supply. It's absolutely where we need to be. But the number one thing that worries me about what people are doing is borrowing unsecured money to burn. Yeah. So here's what I mean by that. When you're doing development, you have a burn rate. So you have a cost of money that you're spending every month, and you're absolutely going to burn money. I'm seeing a lot of people borrowing unsecured debt to burn, which to me is very, very risky. So my business model is we take an equity partner who has the cash in the deal. So yes, we have a burn rate on the deal, but we have real cash to support that. Yeah. It's funded, not borrowed unsecured.
Right. And so you don't have to do any borrowing, like on your deal, you just have debt on the actual real estate, but you have equity to cover all the burn. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's smart. And I've talked about this topic many times. Like, development's risky, right? You could get a heritage building, you might not win on it, right? So you got to have somebody in the deal that it's a very small piece of their portfolio, and their heart's not going to be broken, their lives not going to be ruined if it doesn't work out. But when they win, it's such a big win, right? I mean, when you guys get that approved, I'm sure you're looking in the tens of millions in profit.
Yes. Yeah. And the cool thing that's happening now is what we're seeing is there's major demand for site plan approved stuff. So we're fully intending on going through this, but we've had some people knocking on our door with
ready
some
to
pretty
build it.
Handsome offers to buy us out. So,
and I'll tell you this, like, I've seen it from the other end because I've constantly looked to buy deals that are site plan approved, and everybody wants the sun, the moon, and the stars for site plan approved. So if you're on the other end of that, I mean, why take on the extra stress of building it if that's not something you feel like you're up to? Just let somebody else who that's what they specialize in do it.
Yeah. So
that's really cool, man. And the next one?
So the next one was the second one we did. We did a more sophisticated GPLP structure on that one. So that is a 18.9 acres in Ancaster. It is actually backing onto the 4th hole of the Hamilton Golf and Country Club, which is a very prestigious golf course. We are in 3rd submission for plan of subdivision for 100 units there. We negotiated a very, very favorable VTB on that, as well as we are negotiated a very favorable VTB, and then we did the GPLP structure. So same thing on that one. It's myself and the same working partner on that one, and then we sold the other third of that deal as equity. So we have real cash in the deal. We raised $3 million, or we sold $3 million. A third of the deal for $3 million in cash. So we have real money in that deal. So we're not borrowing to burn, which if anyone's listening who wants, any development, there should be more than enough profit in your development deal that you can happily sell a third of your deal and de-risk it. Bring some real cash in the deal, because that is, my opinion, the number one risk I'm seeing is people borrowing unsecured to burn,
and they're probably taking deals that are marginal or aren't nearly as profitable as they should be, right? Paying too much, and so I mean, you're like, as per last time, we could talk for hours and hours, so we just have to get you back more often. But Kyle, remind people where they find you.
Yeah, so KyleFordMortgages.com is my website. info@KyleFordMortgages.com. That's my admin. I'm happy to talk with anybody for 15 minutes, get to know you, share any words of wisdom. I'm never too busy to help somebody new, or if you're an investor looking to scale, grow, looking for a mortgage team and broker who can help with that, I'm happy to help with that as well. So info at KyleFordMortgages.com. KyleFordMortgages.com is my website. So
okay, and then any closing words of wisdom? Not that you haven't shared a lot already, but just a closing thought.
Oh, I feel like they're all cheesy. I use them all the time. I don't know. Just keep going. Lots of noise in the world today. There's always opportunity. Stick to your numbers. Stick to your gut. Reach out for help for people that when you need it. And despite everything that's going on today, there's still opportunities out there for those who are willing to put the work in. So yeah.
Cool, man. Kyle, I really appreciate it. This was awesome. I forgot how awesome it would be. So we'll definitely get you on more often. I mean that. So, and remind me of that, okay, when you got something more you want to talk about.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.